West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
New College of Florida was founded in the civil rights era with a mission to become an institution inclusive of students regardless of race, religion, national origin, or cultural status. Now, despite that history, or maybe because of it, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has targeted the public liberal arts honors college as part of his war on wokeism. His words. I don't use the word woke. He started by appointing 6 conservative loyalists to New College's board of trustees. That board then fired the college's president and installed a DeSantis ally in her place. The governor said the takeover was necessary because New College had been lacking in true academics.
It hasn't been successful and the enrollment's down so much because I think people want to see true academics, and they want to get rid of some of the political window dressing that seems to accompany all this.
And so the new board and administration made enrollment priority number 1. As of yesterday, the first day of the fall semester, they had exceeded their enrollment goal by bringing in 300 new students this fall. But they did it largely by turning to athletics. New College has only ever had intramural sports. Now they have 6 brand new intercollegiate teams, accounting for more than a third of their new students. They even adopted a new mascot for the college, turning the banyan tree, for which the campus is known, into one that New College says is fierce-looking and flexing. But the new focus on sports is only one of the changes as the new school year gets underway. Alex Wagner tonight traveled to New College earlier this year, just as Governor DeSantis' plans were starting to come into focus. And earlier this month, we went back for a progress report.
Daniel Dupre used to recruit students to New College of Florida until this summer.
The new leadership unfortunately created a toxic work environment for myself, my colleagues, my friends. That's led me to the point of quitting without prospect of a job.
As part of the push to transform New College, Dupre says admission standards were lowered.
There was a lot of ethically dubious things that I was asked to do. One of them was to admit students that are far below our typical acceptance range. And I got to the point where I was denying students for good reason. We send that off to a committee, and in that committee with the higher-ups, I would be overruled.
This year, a large part of the freshman class at New College is comprised of student athletes, many of them baseball players who are arriving at a school that doesn't have a baseball field for them to play on. But there have been other incentives that have brought a record-breaking number of incoming students to this small liberal arts school. And though many colleges offer perks to prospective students, Dupre thinks New College has gone too far.
Those students were promised the best housing available, brand new laptops, as well as a $10,000 scholarship if they would come to the college. To me, that's more like bribery than it is incentives.
I'm a teacher. I'm looking forward to seeing them and to helping them realize their goals. But it's also fairly clear from my conversations with students and from conversations that other faculty members have had that some of the incoming class think that they can study things here that they cannot. Some think that they can take all their courses online. And so I am concerned that some of the students that have been recruited have been given misleading information about what's possible.
Mariano Jimenez, the new head baseball coach, helped recruit a large number of these incoming students. We asked him why desirable dorm rooms, usually reserved for college seniors, were being given to incoming athletes.
We wanted our kids to stay together because we have to practice in the mornings, early. So because of that, we wanted our kids to be able to get up at 5:30 in the morning and have the time to be able to put their blenders on at 5:30. But it's very common for athletes to board together at all universities across the country.
While the incoming class is one of the largest New College has ever seen, students who were already enrolled here have been leaving in droves. Ellen Benedict is one of them.
You know, we've talked about you going and doing school somewhere else. It's your choice, obviously. I'm going to support you no matter what you do, so.
I met Ellen and her parents this spring as they protested the sudden and dramatic changes to New College. Ellen had been studying marine biology, but this year, she says she was forced to leave.
She logged in to see her classes, and her classes were all gone. There was not one class for marine bio that was being offered, and she called the school, and the response was, "Oh, we don't have the teachers on staff to teach those classes anymore, so just go pick something else." I'm like, what? And she was like, what? What am I supposed to pick? I have no advisor. I have no classes.
A new board of trustees approved by Governor Ron DeSantis took over New College in January. Since then, nearly 40 faculty members have left the school, including many tenured professors. A New College representative told us that many of those professors had been planning to leave before the board instituted any changes at the school.
These are faculty who teach in programs all across the college in the natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities. It's going to be hard for the college to continue without the dedication and expertise and investment of time and energy of our tenured faculty members. I am very sorry.
Professor Amy Reed has taught at New College for 28 years. She helped build New College's interdisciplinary concentration in gender studies, starting in 1995. Shortly after Governor DeSantis' takeover, Reed told me she was worried. Are you concerned about the future of the gender studies program?
I expect our gender studies program to be axed.
Wow. But I think the point is... And this month at a Board of Trustees meeting, that process began.
The motion is to direct the president and staff to take the necessary and proper steps to terminate the gender studies program.
As one of the only people in this room with an academic training in gender studies, I beg to differ about...
Board member Christopher Rufo has been behind many of the changes at New College, despite the fact that he has no formal background in education. He was installed on the Board of Trustees by Governor DeSantis as part of his mission to stop woke in Florida schools. In May, DeSantis visited New College to sign 3 controversial education bills. He was met with protests.
All of this shows Ron DeSantis who New College is and why we care about what we care about.
Student Senate President Libby Harity was one of the leaders of those protests.
Let it show you that the people of Florida will not run away. Let it show you that the people of Florida will rise up.
You know, I saw some of the protesters out there. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping for more, but you know.
We were chanting things like, "We live here, this is our home, let us learn what we want." Later that day, the event closes and Christopher Rufo comes out with an entourage of police officers surrounding him, and he engages with the crowd. I made my way to the front of the crowd in order to show my face as a representative of the New College population, to show that we were angry, to show that this wasn't okay for him to do. And then, as a form of protest, I spit on the ground. And that's the alleged time in which some of that spittle may or may not have hit the shoe of Christopher Rufo.
Rufo filed criminal charges against Harity. Facing arrest and mounting legal bills, Harity had a difficult choice to make.
So the agreement that was made between myself and Christopher Rufo by way of our legal counsel was that I would voluntarily withdraw from the school, never to return, and he would drop the charges as filed by the district attorney.
When asked about the agreement, Rufo said, "We are establishing a new standard of civil discourse at New College, and there will be no tolerance for politically motivated violence on campus." Harity is now enrolled in a different college, more than 1,000 miles from her home in Florida.
This entire situation has turned my life upside down. This has been incredibly traumatic. I have been forcibly removed from the place that has been more my home than any other place in the entire world, a place that I have dedicated my entire heart and soul to for 2 years. I am emotionally distraught, devastated.
While the changes at New College have driven many students to leave, plenty of them don't have that option. Those who still need aid will likely have to weather the changes at New College, whatever happens. For her part, Tracy Farrow is still showing up at board meetings.
Have that few. Stop with the finger snapping. Or
no, we're allowed to clap and snap. Sorry.
You're not allowed.
Really? From who? You?
She says she's standing up for the students who remain at New College, even though her own child has already left.
I wanted to go on record that the chair of this board has changed.
I mean, I walked out to a student who shall remain nameless, crying, saying, "I just want to kill myself." And I'm like, no, this isn't worth it. There are other places, you know, and they can't go anywhere because of financially they can't. So they're kind of stuck here. They want to silence people, and they only want them to hear what they want them to hear. But I'm not going to give up. Because here's the deal. These parents want their kids back alive and mentally intact, okay? And if they're not, we're going to hold every single one of them responsible for that.
When reached for comment, New College of Florida did not respond to any of our questions about specific criticisms. Instead, they said the school is, quote, reclaiming its stature among students and families that value rigorous academics that are firmly grounded in the liberal arts, end quote. We also wanted to give a shout out to the Sarasota Herald Tribune, which was instrumental in us being able to report on this story.
It is Wednesday, the 30th of August of 2023, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl, and she will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Will no one rid us of these meddlesome priests? Yes, we need less meddlesome priests and a lot more, I don't know, free association, free thinking. Yeah, we like that. You know, free thinking will cost you, because this is America after all. Speaking of which, we just jumped from one tangent to another because that's what we do. Anyway, hurricane is hitting Florida and making its way. Looks like it's probably made its way across the topmost part of Florida, at least the eye, and it's going on up the seaboard there. A little bit inland, according to the graphics on the weather reports. Storm surge is exceedingly high, 15 feet or more, and there are quite a few inundated places. And when I say inundated, I mean flooded up almost to the second floor of buildings. Whole carports are underwater. You don't want to be staying around for that. And unfortunately, some people have to because there's nowhere else for them to go. And why is that? Because apparently in America, a refugee of any sort is an evil person must be ostracized and in most cases maybe even shot at from across the Rio Grande River. What was that about? Did you hear about that? Yeah, some active service member down there patrolling the border for the xenophobic governors of the area, and this one happens to be Abbott, fired across the Rio Grande, wounding a Mexican or wounding a person. I don't know where they're from, but they were on the Mexico side, and you don't want to do that. You know, it's not as if, you know, the Mexican army is going to steamroll over the United States of America, but we don't want to be provoking things like that. Let alone just someone going about their business in another country and then you shoot across the border at them. All right. This is what xenophobia is, apparently, huh? Which brings me to another pet peeve I have, and that's why the hell is a Nazi propaganda shop like Fox News, and I don't mean like Fox News, I mean Fox News. Why is that propaganda shop in every military base that the U.S. has around the world? Why is that allowed? And then they wonder, wow, we've got like a neo-Nazi problem. Yes, you do. I'm just saying, look what it's done to, you know, our old people. Jeez. Get them off Fox and they like come back to normal almost. Think about how bad it was before they were like watching Fox and they were still like really bad people. Made them worse. Good people made bad. Bad people made worse. Jeez. And that's allowed on our military bases. Okay. Training anti-Semites, training anti-black folk, training transphobia, homophobia, jeez, agoraphobia. Wait until they have, like, angoraphobia. I used to have angoraphobia. You know, angora is that kind of wool that back in the day, maybe you guys remember this, co-eds would use angora and wrap it around their class rings and that they got from their boyfriends as, like, I don't know, it's like promise or, you know, meaning they're going steady. And they'd wrap that angora around there, and then they'd have like a little comb, and they'd fluff it up so it looked like the class ring was in a cloud of fluff, woolly fluff. So, I don't know, it scared the hell out of me, and I realized there was no rational reason to be frightened of it. But I had angoraphobia. Yeah. Can really damage one for the rest of their lives if they're not careful. But I confronted my angoraphobia. I named it for what it was, and I was able to go on. So now when I see, you know, photographs, no one does that anymore. People don't even exchange class rings anymore. Jeez. Do they have a class to go to? It looks like they're closing down all the schools. They're running all the teachers off. Mm-hmm. Well, at least I got over my angoraphobia. I feel better now. I think I'm going to be okay. All right. We entertain ourselves, at least. If we're not entertaining to others, at least we entertain ourselves. And isn't that the most important thing in America? The self. And I don't mean yourself. It's always myself. Okay? That's what makes us equal in a republic, apparently. Sure, jeez. Myself. But you don't have yourself. But you do have myself. Figure it out. No one speaks about those sorts of nuances because that's scary, apparently. Like a scary clown. Okay, well, we could go on and on and on, but we do have a curated show to bring us back to center. Meaning, like, you know, calm. Then we can move forward, Try to make the world a better place, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. I like that idea. Unfortunately, Ron DeSantis doesn't, and I don't think he ever has. Came from humble means, they say. Why is it that people who come from humble means turn out to be bullies when they get into a position of power? It doesn't make any sense to me. But you look at somebody like Nixon, he hated the people he grew up with. And I think maybe that's what the issue is. See, I don't hate the people I grew up with. The class I came from. But, I don't know, maybe dislike a few. I do. I'm serious. I dislike a few small-minded individuals in my past. But if it wasn't for some uplifting individuals of our class, I don't know. Maybe things would be different. You never know. But anyway, what is it about someone like Ron DeSantis just hating on everybody? Well, maybe because he is a Southern gentleman, and you know how they are. If they had a plantation, they'd be owning a few things. And when I say a few things, I don't mean humans, because they wouldn't be considered human only 3/5. You know, the good old days. Well, in less than a year, DeSantis' war on woke at New College has driven out 40 faculty and over half the student body. Mm-hmm. And they've made up some of it with over 300 and some odd students, at least, bringing in new students, all athletes, to a college that only had intramural sports. Most of the 350 apparently are what I heard is that the majority or the highest number of athletes coming on to New College are baseball players, because DeSantis was a baseball player, ostensibly. He played baseball. I don't know if he was a baseball player. Anyway, and they don't even have a baseball diamond. Yep. Well, things are going to be changing now, apparently. They're going to go back to a classical education, which means sports drives everything else. And, you know, if we could just get rid of these faculty, things would be really good. Well, they got rid of the faculty, at least 40 of them. On the rest of the menu, as we continue in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Raw Story, you know, the news aggregate, filed a federal lawsuit against the Department of Defense and the Department of the Navy over their refusal to release records related to a former U.S. Marine and avowed neo-Nazi. Montgomery, Alabama police have opened a hate crime investigation over Nazi symbols and racial slurs spray painted all over cars and houses in a majority black community. Seems to be going around, doesn't it? Yes, it does. And a judge ruled companies that did business with the Trump organization cannot magically hide documents showing their ties to Trump. Well, we get some good news finally. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where the governor of the German state of Bavaria said that his deputy had not done enough to prove he was not responsible for an anti-Semitic flyer as a high school student. And a multinational operation that included the FBI took down a botnet attack that infected hundreds of thousands of computers with malware and caused hundreds of millions of dollars in damages worldwide. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. To the right of the page is the chat room link, and the chat room is monitored by Kelly Lincoln, who does a lot more than just monitor that chat room. So thank you, Kelly, for everything that you do. Across the page from that chat room link, to the left, near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, is the link to our Patreon page. And you know, you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, and that would really help us, I must say. And if you could afford to send us what you might spend on an espresso-type coffee drink, for instance, if you could send those funds to us once a month, we're able to pool those funds with other funds that other people have generously patronaged us with. And then we're able to pay our bills, fly under the radar, and continue this powerhouse of resistance that has been resisting for over a dozen years. In fact, over 13. So thank you for allowing us to fulfill our civic duty as the founders originally intended so many, many years ago. And all kidding aside, thank you. And we still need the help. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Shitter, is that how we're going to call it? Put X in there instead of the T? Yeah, maybe we'll call it that. Anyway, while we're still there, you can follow us there, and also on Mastodon and Spoutable and soon-to-be Blue Sky at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of those, and a lot more than just taking care of the social media feeds. But thank you, Tom. Follow me on Shitter, Mastodon, Spoutable, Blue Sky, etc., at Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Co's 10 minutes before showtime. I just put it in queue and it comes up automatically, so there you go. But anyway, that's where you can find the actual reportage of the articles that we referenced during the salon that we call West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and you can find those quite easily if you follow my social media feeds at Justice Putnam. Follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West, and pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes. Wherever podcasts can be found, you're just not going to find them on Stitcher because of SiriusXM. Damn you. Damn you. Okay. This first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is by Raw Story out of Raw Story. Raw Story today filed a federal lawsuit. That was yesterday, by the way. Oops. Yesterday, Tuesday, against the U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. Department of the Navy, following the agency's refusal to release records related to a former U.S. Marine and avowed neo-Nazi. In May, Raw Story investigative reporter Jordan Green filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the Navy for memoranda, emails, correspondence, or other documents related to the former Marine Jordan Duncan, who the government has accused of participating in a white supremacist terror plot and possessing classified government documents. The U.S. Navy denied Raw Story's request and subsequent appeal of that denial, citing Duncan's privacy interests. Duncan, who has been detained since his arrest in 2020, is charged with conspiracy to illegally manufacture and transport firearms and conspiracy to damage an energy facility. In his lawsuit, Raw Story accuses the Navy of failing to conduct a reasonable search for records responsive to the request, issue a complete determination within the statutory deadline, and produce all non-exempt records responsive to the request. Raw Story asks the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia to declare that the Departments of Defense and Navy violated the Freedom of Information Act and order them to conduct a reasonable search for records and to produce the records the requested records promptly. In a memorandum to government agencies last year, Attorney General Merrick Garland declared the Freedom of Information Act a vital tool for ensuring transparency, accessibility, and accountability in government. He directed government agencies to exercise a presumption of openness. In case of doubt, openness should prevail, Garland wrote. Moreover, agencies are strongly encouraged to make discretionary disclosures of information where appropriate. Raw Story argues that the government has fallen short of its own standard. McDuffie from The Root brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Police in Montgomery, Alabama have opened a hate crime investigation to find out who spray-painted Nazi symbols and racial slurs all over cars and houses in a majority black community. Authorities responded to a report around 6:30 a.m. on Saturday about vandalism in the Danley Pines neighborhood. When they arrived, they found homes with broken windows, along with egregious acts of racism, vehicles spray-painted with the N-word, and swastikas emblazoned on homes. Nobody knows for sure who is responsible or what the motive is, but at least one Danley Pines resident, Otis Ramos, has a theory that it could have stemmed from an altercation with a panhandler at a convenience store nearby who was denied some spare change. Police have not been able to confirm that theory, but Montgomery elected leaders who are going out of their way to tell the public that this act of hate won't be tolerated, as others were in the city's troubled, segregated past. State Representative Philip Ensler took to X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, to share an image of the damage, but to condemn the hateful messages. In November, Ensler became the first Jewish candidate to secure a seat in Montgomery in almost half a century. I am enraged by the white supremacist, racist images and words spray-painted on personal private property of black residents in the Danley Pines area, he said. I unequivocally stand against all crimes, acts, words, and displays of hate. I recognize the pain and anger this is causing so many in our community, and I stand with them. No arrests have been announced, and the investigation remains ongoing. Pagliari of the Daily Beast brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Banks and insurance companies trying to keep the public in the dark about their business dealings with Trump ran into a ray of legal sunshine on Tuesday after a judge ruled that he wouldn't seal records in the run-up to the New York Attorney General's upcoming trial against the real estate mogul. A handful of firms associated with Trump made a last-ditch effort to hide the documents that detail the way they unwittingly became part of the Trump organization's scheme to inflate assets. Unwittingly. But the judge, Arthur F. Engoron, ruled that aside from information like the home addresses of certain employees and bank account numbers, the public has the right to see the documents and the communications. The former president is just 34 days away from heading to a civil trial in New York City, where his personal finances will be put under a microscope while the state's AG tries to bleed his corporation dry over the way it routinely overstated its holdings on official documents. But with that trial around the corner, the companies that kept lending him hundreds of millions of dollars for business deals are trying to quietly slink into the shadows and hide the paperwork that shows how they played along. Zurich American Insurance Company, WSFS Bank, Ladder Capital, and others earlier this month asked the judge overseeing the case to seal documents that detail the way they communicated with the Trump organization while they evaluated its assets. Some of these records form the backbone of AG Letitia James' $250 million lawsuit against the Trumps, purportedly showing how the real estate mogul and the family members he made executives got away with minimal scrutiny by asserting fantastical financial numbers that were not examined carefully. Had they been, auditors and loan officers would have realized that Trump was easily doubling and tripling the value of property to snag better bank loans and insurance policies. Zurich, for its part, claimed some documents which had already made their way into the court docket as evidence contain highly sensitive, non-public proprietary information about Zurich's insurance business, including Zurich's highly protected underwriting guidelines and competitively sensitive financial information. Meanwhile, lawyers for WSFS Bank complained that journalists have been trying to reach one of their employees over his role in a business lifeline tied to Trump's estate north of New York City, a failed development project that he nonetheless valued as if it were a success when he donated the land to conservation and got a massive tax break. One employee has already been publicly linked to the Seven Springs loan, has received unwanted media inquiries every time the case appears in the news, which he finds disruptive and distressing. Oh, really? The AG pushed back in court documents citing the need in a democratic society for the American public to have access to ongoing court battles. Her lawyers also quoted legal precedent that neither the potential for embarrassment or damage to reputation, nor the general desires for privacy constitutes good cause to seal court documents. Yesterday afternoon, Judge Engoron said he'd allow the companies to hide personal information, but he sided with the AG that most of the documents would stay in the open. Here, the non-parties have failed to demonstrate a compelling interest in favor of wholesale sealing that outweighs the public's right to access and the presumption in favor of open judicial proceedings, Engoron wrote. Well, that was a good judge. Thank you. And it is now time for our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, Family Matters. The Blue Beetle first appeared in Fox Features Comics in 1940. In the 1950s, Charlton House Comics bought the character, and in the 80s, DC Comics snatched up the heroes of Charlton House. In 2006, desperate to not be #DC so white, DC introduced the new young Latino Blue Beetles, Jaime Reyes. Today, as part of the Black Panther we can actually make money off of non-white heroes revolution, Reyes is the Blue Beetle that the DCU brings to the screen. But if Marvel's Black Panther is about culture as the superhero, the DCU's Blue Beetle is about family as superhero. Blue Beetle is not a family in jeopardy story. It's the lesser used variation, family is everything, something they explicitly say at the beginning of the movie. Jaime Reyes is not the protagonist of this film. The entire Reyes family is. You know how women characters are written to do little other than support their men or worry about them? It's like that with the Reyeses. They're rarely apart from each other narratively or physically. It's even such that there's an almost kiss with the love interest that feels forced and wrong because her story's not about desire or love, it's about her being chastely absorbed into the family. Even the bad guys, though they're cast as white corporate soulless gentrifying military imperialists raiding your home like ICE supremacists, are, at their base, defined, in contrast to the Reyeses, as being a broken family. Family is everything is a stick that Blue Beetle swings again and again until you say, okay, I get it, just please stop hitting me, which is kind of how I feel about George Lopez in this movie. But if someone wants to tell me, no, you don't get it, that focuses Latinx culture in general and Mexican culture in particular, and back off because Blue Beetle finally gives us our own hero, also explicitly said in the movie, then I'll accept that and try to enjoy the rare DC flick where they don't want their heroes to be the real villains. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
This is an important message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. After a storm or disaster, it's important to eat only safe food. Throw away perishables like meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and leftovers stored above 40 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours or more. Throw away food with an unusual odor, color, or texture. Throw away food that may have come in contact with floodwater, including food in swollen, punctured, and damaged cans. When in doubt, throw it out.
This is a message from CDC.
After hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods, standing water and excess moisture help mold grow in your home, garage, and other structures. When you return to a home that has been flooded, know that you're likely to have mold. Mold puts your family's health at risk. If you have mold growing in your home, you should clean it up and fix other water problems, such as leaks in roofs, walls, or plumbing. Keep your children and pets out of affected areas until you've cleaned. Control moisture in your home to prevent mold growth. To remove mold growth from hard surfaces, use commercial products, soap and water, or a bleach solution of no more than 1 cup of household laundry bleach in 1 gallon of water. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. Never mix bleach with ammonia or other household cleaners. It will produce dangerous, toxic fumes. Open windows and doors to provide fresh air.
For more information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Arthritis is common among veterans. Traumatic and overuse injuries during active duty are risk factors for developing arthritis. Fortunately, there are low-cost or no-cost strategies that can help veterans manage arthritis. Physical activity can reduce pain and improve function. It can also help improve mood and play a role in managing other chronic conditions, such as heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. You can do low-impact activities, such as walking, biking, swimming, and water aerobics, all good forms of exercise. Arthritis-specific classes can help you get started. Information on classes, exercise programs, and tools are available at cdc.gov/arthritis. These resources can help reduce pain and improve function. Learning self-management techniques can help all veterans become more active, improve their overall quality of life, and thrive.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September.
Or a single father of 2 who works 3
part-time jobs and still can't put enough food on the table.
Or maybe a mother who cleans offices at night,
hoping to find meeting leftovers to take home to her hungry family.
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time
landing a job and getting back on his feet.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work.
Sorry, I'm late.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
Can you be banned from voting when you're 90 because of a crime you committed when you were 18? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. 15 states have a lifetime ban on voting as part of their punishment for various crimes. Note, 35 states don't. Now, consider Mississippi, where the state's constitution, adopted in 1890, specified for the lifetime voting ban crimes which, historians agree, were disproportionately prosecuted against black people. Unfortunately, lawsuits claiming that these lifetime bans violate equal protection have lost. But a challenge to Mississippi's lifetime ban recently won, based on an entirely different legal theory. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals 2-1 has ruled that the state's lifetime ban on voting violates the Eighth Amendment prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. Because for people who have completed their sentence, this continuous punishment, this lifetime deprivation of the most basic democratic right, serves no legitimate purpose of sentencing. It's irrational, constitutes vengeance, is punishment simply for the sake of punishment, and therefore is cruel. And because only 15 of the 50 states have such bans, down from 31 in 1974, it now also is unusual. The dissent said the legislature can have a voting ban if it wants one, and the state attorney general has vowed to appeal. So, the case is likely headed to the Supreme Court. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU, because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1935. That was the day that President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Revenue Tax Act, more popularly known as the Wealth Tax. The act reformed the federal income tax to raise rates on the wealthiest in the nation. Those making over $5 million a year could pay taxes up to 75%. In a speech to Congress that summer, Roosevelt had explained his thoughts on wealth and taxes. The president said, quote, "Wealth in the modern world does not come merely from individual effort. It results from a combination of individual effort and of the manifold uses to which the community puts that effort. The individual does not create the product of his industry with his own hands. He utilizes the many processes and forces of mass production to meet the demands of a national and international market. Therefore, in spite of the great importance in our national life of the efforts and ingenuity of unusual individuals, the people in the mass have inevitably helped to make large fortunes possible. Without mass cooperation, FDR said, great accumulation of wealth would be impossible save by unhealthy speculation. The president went on, as Andrew Carnegie put it, where wealth accumulates honorably, the people are always silent partners. Whether it be wealth achieved through the cooperation of the entire community or riches gained by speculation, in either case, the ownership of such wealth or riches represents a great public interest and a great ability to pay. Although FDR tried to win over the nation's wealthy by quoting industrialist Andrew Carnegie, he did not gain their support. Not surprisingly, many of the nation's wealthy lobbied for and used tax loopholes to evade paying the new tax rates. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. We always begin, whether from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 58 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs in the low to mid 80s, plentiful sunshine with winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. We continue in an air quality alert, but though at the moment the air is not so bad, we will have a few passing clouds tonight with lows in the mid to upper 50s, winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and then rain early tomorrow, then remaining cloudy with showers in the afternoon, highs in the low to mid 70s, and winds will be light and variable, and we're expecting rain for the next 3 days, well, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it looks like it's going to bring a couple of inches in all those days, so we look forward to that. Grass pollen is rated low in the town of Rogue River itself. The air quality index for the region is in that moderate range at 80 parts per million, and the daytime UV index is high at level 7. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.2 inches, visibility is at 9 miles, and relative humidity is at 93%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 68 degrees and partly cloudy. Paris is 68 and fair. Rome is 76 and partly cloudy with a thunderstorm advisory. Kabul is 75 and clear. Kyiv is 85 and fair. Hong Kong is 82 degrees and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 82 and partly cloudy. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is 48 and fair. San Francisco, California is 68 degrees and sunny. Chicago, Illinois is 65 and cloudy. And New York, New York is 75 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Kirsten Grieshaber of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. The governor of the German state of Bavaria said yesterday, Tuesday, that his deputy had not done enough to prove he was not responsible for an anti-Semitic flyer as a high school student and ordered him to answer a detailed questionnaire to clear himself of any possible involvement in the scandal that has caused an uproar in Germany. Daily newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung reported last Friday that when Deputy Governor Herbert Aiwanger was 17, he was suspected of writing a printed flyer calling for entries to a competition titled "Who is the Biggest Traitor to the Fatherland?" He listed, among other things, a first prize, a free flight through the chimney at Auschwitz. Aiwanger has denied that he wrote the flyer. His older brother later came forward to claim that he had written it. In a statement on Saturday, he said that one or more copies of the flyer were found in a school bag and he was summoned to see the principal. He said he was threatened with police involvement if he did not clear up the facts and had agreed under pressure to make a presentation. He did not answer what the presentation entailed, but that he said had been the end of the matter. He also said he distanced himself completely from the leaflet 35 years later. Among other things, Aiwanger did not explain publicly why he was carrying the flyers in a school bag. Governor Markus Söder said on Tuesday yesterday that the flyer was disgusting and said it was written in the worst Nazi jargon. This is not a stupid boy's prank or a mere youthful sin, Schroeder told reporters in Munich, adding that even the suspicion that Aiwanger was somehow linked to the flyer damages the reputation of Bavaria and the deputy governor's personal credibility. He said a meeting earlier with Aiwanger, who is also Bavaria's economy minister, did not fully clear up what exactly happened. Germany's leading Jewish group, the Central Council of Jews in Germany, also sharply condemned the text of the flyer. It denigrates the millions of victims of the Shoah in a despicable manner, the council's president Joseph Schuster said, using the Hebrew name for the Holocaust.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
David D. Molfetta of the Washington Post brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. U.S. authorities announced a multinational operation that took down a network that had infected hundreds of thousands of computers with malware and caused hundreds of millions of dollars in damages from cyber attacks worldwide. The FBI called the action that disabled the infamous Quack bot malware one of the largest U.S.-led disruptions of a botnet infrastructure used by cybercriminals to commit ransomware, financial fraud, and other cyber-enabled criminal activity. The Justice Department said law enforcement agencies in France, Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Romania, and Latvia also participated in the operation, which it said was codenamed Duck Hunt. Some $8.6 million in stolen cryptocurrency related to the network's operations was also seized and will be returned to victims, the FBI said. Quackbot, first discovered in 2008, has frequently targeted victims using computers through spam email messages containing malicious hyperlinks or attachments. Victim machines would then become another link in the network, surreptitiously under control of those seeking to use the network for cybercrime. Some 700 victims have been identified worldwide, with 200,000 of them in the United States alone. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.